So all of the opera events are begun by talking to Barnes, the stage manager, back behind the stage. He will open the door, letting your raid group walk on out to the stage and take a look around. Barnes will then take his very sweet time to wander out to the middle of the stage and begin presenting the particular play that you've been given. Now, you'll have no idea which opera event you have until you see this dialogue for the first time. Right here, he'll give you some specific text, in this case, the text that you'll see for the Wizard of Oz event. There's also plenty of time here for the raid to get out on the stage, get in position, and you can use this time to give your tanks assignments for which mobs they'll pick up, give your DPSers and CCers their assignments for what they'll be controlling or what they'll be DPSing, and generally just lay out the game plan for how you're going to deal with the event while Barnes is yammering on. Positioning-wise, it's a good idea for the entire raid to stay front and center. The tanks can stand a little bit forward, kind of at the curtain where it is now. It gives them enough time to pick up the mobs as they're rushing the rest of the raid group. But it's a mobile fight, so you're not going to stay in one spot very long. Once the curtain goes up, Dorothy will become active relatively soon, followed by Roar. Dorothy has no aggro list. She's the first DPS target. Everyone should just do as much damage to her as possible. Roar, on the other hand, needs to either be tanked or fear-kited. If he's going to be tanked, you just need to have a tank pick him up. And even if he's going to be fear-kited, it's important to have a tank at least tap him. You'll see here that Roar runs towards the group, tank taps him a couple of times, and then he gets feared. That's important because now every time fear breaks, he'll run towards the tank instead of running towards the warlock. Strawman comes out, he can be hit with a fire spell. See right there, he gets hit with a fire blast and he gets dazed for a second. And in this case, we're going to have a tank pick up Strawman instead of permanently kite him. Tinhead's active, runs into the group, tank picks him up, pulls him away to try to get that cleave out of the group. We begin applying frostbolts to build up the rust effect. And now Tito is finally summoned, as he's the last member of this particular party. We need to have one of the tanks pick up Tito, so in this case the tank on Tinhead comes back, grabs Tito, and then once he's got some threat on Tito and pulled him off one of the healers, he pulls him back to the back of the stage and away from the rest of the group. At this point I pull aggro on Tinhead. He has the rust effect applied. So the group at this point is basically CCing two of the mobs on the stage. Tinhead's being kited, and Roar's being fear-chained throughout the entire fight. That leaves Tito and Strawman to be tanked, and Dorothy wandering around aimlessly being beat on by all the DPSers. Now, in the event that you don't have any CC, you're going to have one tank pick up two mobs and the other tank pick up two mobs. Good combinations are Strawman and Tinhead, and then Roar and Tito, or some combination thereof, so that people can pick up a mob and then pick up the next mob that comes out. Gives them some time to build threat on the first mob before the second one comes out, so they can spend some time building threat on that second mob. If you only have one CC'er, then you'll just have to have one of your tanks pick up a couple of the mobs. Either way, whether you have an ECC or not, this is a very doable fight. It just makes the job of the tanks and the healers a little bit more difficult when they have to deal with multiple mobs instead of just one. Now, regardless of whether you're actually fire CCing Strawman throughout the entire fight, if possible, the DPSers should throw out fire spells on Strawman as much as possible. He'll still be stunned by those effects, and it just makes the whole process of tanking him easier. You saw right there I got silenced. That's the silencing yip of Tito. It's a good idea to keep him tanked away from the rest of the party. That little silence can become rather problematic. It's something to just give you a motivation to keep him away, just like Tinhead's cleave. Now, once Dorothy dies, it's good to pick up, first and foremost, the targets on your tank, so the raid kills Strawman, and then shortly thereafter cleans up on Tito. That leaves just Tinhead and Roar running around the stage being CC'd. So Roar is picked up. They commence DPSing him at this point, while I continue to kite Tinhead around the stage. At this point, the fight's gone from chaos to control, which is really sort of the hallmark signature of this fight. The fight starts off with a lot of moving parts, a lot of damage, and a lot of things happening. And so the real test to your raid group is the ability to formulate a really cohesive plan and then have every single person in your raid execute their particular part of the plan. As long as you can get one or two of the mobs down without losing any of your raid members, just kind of hold it together at the beginning, the fight gets progressively much easier. Every time you kill one of these mobs, it's less damage being done to your raid, it's more DPSers freed from their CC, it just makes it easier and easier. Now, with one mob left that's being CC'd, the decision is made to kite him for a little bit, just to let some of the raid members build up a little bit of mana from dealing with the rest of the crew. As long as you've got at least one mob CC'd, you can pretty much continue to apply that CC nearly indefinitely to give your raid time to just stand around and regen mana over time. The Crone fight in general is relatively simple, so if you can take down all of these guys, dealing with Act 2 of this particular play is extremely simple, but it never hurts to be a little cautious and to make sure that you head into that fight with enough extra mana and cooldowns as possible. Now, once Tinhead dies, or once any of the last of the first act players die, the Crone's going to spawn sort of center middle of the stage. Needs to be picked up by a tank immediately. The other thing to be aware of is that a Cyclone will spawn somewhere on the stage, and it's really important to make sure that people, if possible, spread out so the Cyclone, which spawns at a random location, doesn't hit like everyone in the raid at once. Cyclone doesn't do a lot of damage, but it throws people up into the air, making them unable to heal or tank or what have you. And in this case, you see it appear in the front left and throw a couple people up. They'll take some falling damage, nothing significant. It's more about having those people incapacitated than having them take actual damage. Besides for the Cyclone, the Crone event's relatively tank and spank. She doesn't really hit particularly hard, doesn't do anything particularly special. She does have a chain lightning ability. It's really not that big of a threat if you've managed to survive the rest of this encounter. But as a rule of thumb, it's not a bad idea to have people stay spread out at least a little bit to avoid having it chain multiple times. It's theoretically possible for it to kill somebody that has a low total hit point threshold. So as long as you stay a little mobile and have the tank continue to move the Crone around, and your healers don't all get cycloned at once, it's a relatively simple fight. It can help to have someone invent calling out the Cyclone location as well, just so that your tanks, who tend to get a little absorbed in what they're doing, know when to move around to avoid getting cycloned. Regardless, if you make it through the first act, the second act's pretty easy cleanup. The Crone will die, and you'll be able to collect your loot and move on to the Curator, the first piece of Tier 4 loot available to those progressing through Karzhan.